Hello, everyone, and welcome to Catholic Truth, Love, and Life, where we talk about dating, relationships, engagement, marriage, kids, and more, and life. And today we're going to be talking about self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth. And to do that, we have the Julie Loyne to join us, a homeschooling mom, 5 kids. You know her. She's been on all the time. And we're going to be talking about this topic because think about this. I saw a show, I think it was America's Next Top Model. And so we're talking like the most beautiful women in the country, okay? And they're all competing to be the top. And these the women are naturally beautiful, right? And they all look, like everyone wants to look. Everyone's like, I want to be like that, all the girls. And I watched the show one day, and the show was an obstacle course outside where they had to go do all of this running in the dirt, going on the ground, that sort of thing. And so you couldn't wear makeup to this event. Like, you would get deducted serious points if you wore makeup to the event because it's just going to be coming off anyways. It was going to be one of those dirty kind of days. And several of the women came out with makeup anyways, because they could not be seen in front of the other women without makeup. They were too insecure, which is telling to me because all the women, I'm exaggerating, but, many young women say, that's what I want to be. Those are the women I want to esteem to be. And they didn't even like themselves. They weren't even fully happy with themselves. They didn't even have self-esteem themselves. They couldn't even be in front of other people and without caring too much about how they looked. And so they would rather get points deducted than just be themselves. And to me, that was telling that self-esteem is not based on how we look. It's not how pretty we are. It's not what kind of a nice body we have. It really comes down to, do we love ourselves? Are we happy with who we are in spite of who we are? So some people are not pretty or not beautiful or may not have a nice body, but love themselves and still find themselves dating, married, and other things like that, because it really comes down to the beauty that's within. Not that the outer beauty is not important, but it's infinitely more important, the beauty within. Outer, that goes away. The inner, that's forever. But those are just my initial thoughts before we get into this. I'd love to give you the floor to give your thoughts.
Ooh, I mean, this is a big topic, and this is a hard topic. This is one, especially right now. I'm already like, I can sense the angst in some of our listeners, because this is a really sensitive topic, because a lot of people don't know who they are. A lot of people don't know their worth, because their worth is determined by society. Their worth is determined by what people see or think, or not even that, but what they view. So like you said, these women are watching these shows and they're like, well, that's what beauty is. That's what I should be. And so we've completely gone backwards on what is beauty and what is good. And so one of the things, as Bryan and I were talking about topics, one of the things I was thinking about was this self-esteem idea. And Jordan Peterson's brilliant. I just adore the man. He's like, there is no such thing as self-esteem. There just isn't, because it's a word that describes how we feel about ourselves. So a lot of people will do these great researches on why people feel the way they feel about themselves and all this. Self-esteem is simply just how we present ourselves to others and how we feel about ourselves. And it's a really telling thing. So if I don't like how I look, I don't like how I act, I don't like these things, it can actually be a good thing, because in a way it's telling me something's wrong and I don't like how I am. I don't like my person. I need to work on that. He said that can go really deep, though. That can go into like depression. We don't want to get to that point where we're so focused on change. I'm not good enough. I'm not this pretty person. I'm not this and that. So that can lead to depression. And that's the problem, is when people are so depressed about who they are that they can't use that opportunity to say, you know what? I got to a point in my life personally where I was just angry. I was a really angry mom. I would fly off the handle, and I still do on occasion. I promise you that. But I've gotten to a point, and Bryan, I know we've talked about this on other podcasts, where we've been able to adjust ourselves because we've seen something we don't like. So my self-esteem as a mom was going down. I did not see myself as a good mom, a good wife. Things were just not going well. And so I had to readjust. I had to look at myself and see what needed changing. I think the world is afraid of that, though. They're afraid that, okay, I see something wrong with myself, but you have to agree with it. You have to like me as I am. And the world's like, very scared about this because we're like, okay, I see something maybe that you need to work on, but I can't tell you because I have to love you exactly as you are. And that's the problem. That's the real problem here with self-esteem.
Yeah, and I'm one of those people who was depressed, because I just focused so much on myself and the things that I didn't like. I didn't like my body, or I didn't like my looks. I think growing up it was my neck. I was like, "Oh, it's too long. I look like ET."
Mm.
You know, and
Can I ask you a quick question about that? Did
yeah,
someone mention that to you?
I don't think so, and that's
Interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe they did and I don't remember. Um, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so, I had a lot of things that I didn't like about myself, but mostly around my looks and pretty much everything else as well. And I was like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to find, a wife or get dates or anything because I'm too ugly. And I would literally obsess about it. And I had low self confidence. I had no self confidence. And so that was until college, like you said, when, hey, you can make a change. And I came to the conclusion that, hey, you know what? I might be the ugliest person on planet Earth. But the only way I'm going to have a chance on finding someone is if I try to make up with it in another area, like my personality. And so I'll try to be extra loving, kind, joyful, generous. I'll tell jokes to people. I'll give hugs to people who are feeling down. I'll make everybody else happy, and maybe they'll fall in love with me as a person. And oh, who knew that that was actually some sort of a, divine wisdom or something. But yeah, everyone really loved me as a person. And I came to realize later that people actually thought I was handsome as well, which I could never have imagined in the day. Um, and it was crazy. Even my wife, she obsessed about it too. And she she had lots of eating disorders because she focused so much, like you said, about bodily appearance, what she didn't have, focusing on the models. Well, I'm not that, and I need to be that. And so she, and this is a random picture of my wife. I didn't have time to find a good one, but I don't know if anyone's really seen my wife. So this is kind of a little bit of an older picture when we were playing mini golf. But yeah, we were playing mini golf, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm too fat." Like
Unreal.
obviously not here, but this is
No.
who she is naturally. She's naturally thin, petite, and her whole life she obsessed with, well, I'm not good enough. My I might not be this or I might not be that. And like, everyone who looks at her is like, "What are you talking about?
Hmm.
You're gorgeous, and you're Latina. So what else do you need?" So she
It's so
spent so
true.
many years. She spent so many years struggling with that, and she needed to change her mindset too. Just that both of us did, apart from each other when we were both single and didn't even know each other yet. We both had to take a, all the arrows are pointing in. I'm not good enough. So we both had to turn that around and say, you know what, I got to start focusing on other people, making other people happy, looking around at other people, and thinking about what can I do to make their lives better? How can I be a better person? And once I became a better person, I just became more beautiful in general. I mean, I
Hmm.
got so mad at these women because I had a lot of women who liked me in college, or at least I like to think so. And this one guy from California, he was like this guy, and he had like all this big curly hair, and all the girls were like flocking around him. I'm like, so I was like getting all like jealous, and I'm like, what? Come on, he can't rival me. And I'm like, what the heck? And so I went up to a girl and I'm like, this guy's not even handsome. I was like, what, do girls really find this guy attractive? And the girl's like, no, not really. And I'm like, then why are they all around him? They're like, because he has such a brilliant personality. He's so fun. He's so loving. He's such a great person. Everyone wants to just be around him. I'm like, see, that's what it all comes down to. Looks will fade, but who
Hmm.
you are as a person, the beauty you have will be there forever. And I think that's something that we need to focus on.
Yeah, I think with that too is knowing there's almost like two parts to finding worth in yourself. Obviously, it almost is like a tiered thing here. We have God, right? Ultimately, the way we find our worth, the way we see ourselves should always be through the lens of God. And most people, including I'm sure both of us, struggle with that tremendously. My worth comes from God. My worth comes from He created me and He doesn't make mistakes. He didn't accidentally do something to your looks, to your personality. He made you exactly who you are. And it's our job then to fine tune those things through prayer, through adoration, through like you said, Bryan, finding joy and uplifting other people, getting outside of ourselves. So often we're so focused on self, including myself. We often turn inward towards ourselves when God is asking us to go outside of ourselves, go beyond ourselves to help other people. So that top tier starts with God. If we cannot see ourselves as God views us, that's the starting problem. But then the other piece comes from our parents. You know, how did our parents view us? And that can be a real tricky thing because some of us, I was very blessed to have wonderful parents, but they can be a trigger for us in that they might have started that questioning of ourselves. Maybe I'm not as beautiful because my dad never told me, maybe, and my dad did. So I'm not saying my dad, but in general, there's been a lot of parents out there that have caused a lot of problems. And so then it goes to the spouse. So it's this tiered as we get older, as we develop these relationships. I can't, and I'm sorry to tell all of these listeners out here, these wonderful, amazing listeners, I can't sit in front of a mirror and tell myself I'm wonderful. I cannot sit in front of a mirror and say, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're awesome, go get them, Tiger.
Are you serious?
You can't.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Because I could sit in front of you and tell you that all day because you're all of those things.
So that's the difference. So Bryan, that's great. You made my point. You can tell me that. I cannot tell myself that and change anything. It cannot work. But other people can. That's the job of spouse. That's the job of friends. That's the job of God himself.
You could come to see it eventually.
You could.
Because I've come to see it in my own life. And, I've even told myself that just to get myself used to saying that because it's so hard.
It's hard.
But Bryan, I could get to the point of doing it.
Is it you or is God teaching you through you? Are you doing it solely from a modernistic way, or are you doing it with God? Are you doing it through prayer? Are you doing it, God, allow me to see myself as you see me? Because there's a difference there. I'm talking about...
For sure. Yeah.
The modern view of I'm fine as I am. I don't need to change anything about myself. I am awesome. Go get him, girl. So to differentiate the two things, I can't do that without God, because if I do, it's a very shallow way of seeing yourself. You're not getting to the inner part. What is the problem? What am I struggling with? So that is where God comes first. Then our spouses. It's so important for spouses to uplift each other, because what's going to hurt most is if a spouse starts attacking our self. So if my husband were to say to me, man, your eyes are so wide, your nose is big, your ears stick out too far, your arms are flabby. If he goes on and starts telling me these things, oh gosh, that's going to bring me down so painfully deep. And so as a spouse, to build up your other half, not Bryan, I know, not the other half, the other whole.
I know. As
we build each other up, we cannot pinpoint the parts that need to be fixed that can't be fixed, right? I can't point out things to the other person because that will just bring them down. So we need to uplift at all times. And thank God I have a great spouse who does that. He's absolutely amazing. I know, Bryan, you do the same for Kathy, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and especially if their love language is words of affirmation, it could even be worse.
Yes.
But yeah, no, for sure. I think if everybody focuses on the good within themselves and not what we don't, everyone has things they don't like. But if you focus on the things that you do like, the gifts you have, the strengths you have, and you use them to change the world in some way, you're going to find yourself more positive. You're going to find yourself more happy. You're going to find yourself comparing less. And you talked about, parents. My wife has two wonderful parents, but her dad, she says, started her journey down that path of anorexia, bulimia, not being good enough, perfectionism, by watching those shows and being like, oh, she's really pretty. Oh, she's not pretty enough. Why is she on there? She's not pretty at all. Like, so she just learned to kind of judge and have that standard at a very young age. And it kind of, it was a microcosm of what would take place later on, and of her comparing, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? And it got so bad, it got to some bad places where she had to make some changes in her life because she was doing damage to her body and that sort of thing. So, and now she is in a much better place, and, she can eat more than me sometimes at McDonald's, and she has no problem with that. and
Right,
she's
right.
happy, and that's what it is. We're not about, we have this lie in our society that we have to look a certain way to be loved. We have to
Mhm.
have a certain type of body. I mean, if our arms are a little flabby, or if our stomach's a little big, or if our butt is too big, or these things are going to keep me back from being loved. And that is the most shallow lie in the whole world, because when people fall in love with you, they love you, not parts of your body. And if they love parts of your body, then they're never going to love you. Like, let people fall in love with you. Stop focusing on your body and give them you. And that's why dressing immodestly and hanging out and showing belly, you're giving them parts of your body, which is why they're not going to fall in love with you. Whereas if you cover that up, not because it's bad, but because it's so good, and you want to show them you, the whole you. And that's why I love Pope John Paul II. He says the problem with pornography is not that it shows too much, but that it shows
Mm.
too little. It doesn't show the person's dreams, who they are, their sense of humor, their love, their heart, and all this other stuff. It misses all that for a cheap gratification on the shallow level.
Exactly, exactly. And I think as we're trying to figure out who we are, as we're trying to put ourselves out there, that's the piece where you need to ask God, God, reveal to me who I am. If you don't know who you are, because a lot of times as you're growing up, maybe you're young and you're trying to decipher things. This is where the time to ask God to reveal to you, what do I have to offer this world? What are my charisms? What am I going to present? What gifts can I give to the world that you're going to give me? And finding those out honestly helps so much, because then you get to find, what does God have in store for you? Because then it takes that, how I look, how I dress, all these things off. And then it becomes me, who I am. And I know my looks and my personality and all that go together. But instead of it being the obsession of myself, I can then bring things to people. I can offer things to people because that's what God is asking of me. And I think I want to go back to one thing. The reason I asked you, Brian, did someone mention your neck? Because often that's where it starts. Man, Brian, you have such a long neck. Brian, I would literally never think that in 1,000 years. But someone may have put that in you, and then you self doubt. I had a teacher in high school. I was doing Les Miserables, and I was Cosette, and I was getting dressed in this, and she was helping me tie up the back. She was my director, and she goes, "Wow, you have a really odd shaped body." Forever, that is how I view myself, forever. And it has taken a long time to be like, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay who I am." But again, that those words that we say to other people, especially women to women, ugh, stop judging other people and saying things to other people. And poor Kathy, seeing her father kind of reprimand women for not being exactly what he wants them to be. Oh, she's not pretty enough because my standard is this, has now tainted his daughter to view and say, my father can't love me unless I am as good as this woman over here. And so that plays this role. And so men need to watch what they say. Men need to watch how they talk about the weight of a woman, how they talk about the qualities of a woman's body, because it hurts the soul of their daughters, of their wives. And it's so important. Women need to uplift and find the beauty. And maybe you see someone and you can be like, wow, I really love X, Y about this woman. And it's so important for us to look at it differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my wife had insecurities too, and she didn't like certain parts of her body. And I'm like, who cares? I love you. And every part of your body comes with you. So I love every part of your body. So it doesn't matter to me. Like, that sort of thing. And that's, I think, how we need, that is our biggest fear, is that we're not going to be loved. But when you find someone who loves you, not your body, they'll love your body too. And I think
Amen.
that's what we need to realize. So yeah, thank you for sharing those words of wisdom with us today. And I finally found, this is one of our most updated picture with me and my wife at
Oh, I
Christmas.
love it.
Yeah. And we were right in front of our Christmas tree with our big star on top. But yeah, it's a
Stunning.
more updated picture. um, but yeah, no, we definitely need to upbuild. So thank you for the words of wisdom and for sharing your personal struggles. We could go on with this topic for a long time, but I do hope that people out there have been inspired. I hope we've given you a few things to think about to work on, to practice, and to consider and reflect on in your own life. So thank you all, as always, for watching. If you ever have any questions, please put them in the comment section below. And if you like our content, then please make sure to subscribe and like this video so that more people can see it. Thanks, and God bless you.